What is up, everybody? It's your boy, the Mystery Sigma, back at it again with another video. And guys, this one is heavy. In my last video, we started talking about Lisa Tressler, the attorney who seems to think it's okay to rip families apart without cause. But you know what? I did some digging and it turns out she's not alone. We're about to expose the key players, the judges, the attorneys, the people in power who seem to side with CYS no matter what. These are the people who are supposed to protect families, but instead, they're perpetuating a system that tears them apart. So buckle up, because things are about to get real. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Let's get started. First up, we have Judge Jennifer Sletvold. Now, I'm not one to make accusations lightly, but this judge has a reputation for doing whatever she wants in her courtroom. Parents have accused her of being biased towards CYS, ignoring evidence that could help families stay together, and even making decisions based on personal feelings rather than the law. We're talking about real lives here, people. Kids who are being taken away from their parents without due process, parents who are being denied their fundamental rights. And Judge Sletvold? She seems content to just rubber stamp whatever CYS puts in front of her. This isn't justice, guys. It's a complete disregard for the very foundation of our legal system. Next on our list is Judge Abraham P. Cassis. Now, this one is particularly concerning because Judge Cassis has a history of connections to CYS that raise some serious red flags. We're talking about potential conflicts of interest that could be influencing his decisions in cases involving the agency. Look, I'm not saying that Judge Cassis is intentionally harming families, but when you have these kinds of connections, it creates an environment where bias can thrive. And when it comes to something as sensitive as child welfare, even the appearance of impropriety is unacceptable. We need judges who are impartial, who are going to look at the facts of the case objectively, not base their decisions on personal relationships. And the hits just keep on coming. Judge Craig A. Daly, you're up. Now, Judge Daly's situation is eerily similar to Judge Cassis's. We're talking about more potential conflicts of interest, more questions about whether he can truly be impartial when it comes to CYS cases. This is starting to feel like a broken record, but it's a record we need to keep playing until things change. We can't just sit back and allow judges with these kinds of conflicts to make life-altering decisions about families. It's a recipe for disaster, and it's clear that something needs to be done. Chapter 4, Michael A. Ondilla, ESQ, the abuse enabler. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about Michael A. Ondilla, ESQ. This attorney has built a career representing CYS, but what's truly disturbing is the way he seems to downplay and even dismiss allegations of abuse within the system. We're talking about cases where there's clear evidence that children are being harmed, and Ondilla is more concerned with protecting CYS than with seeking justice for these vulnerable kids. It's like he's forgotten that his duty is to the law, not to a government agency. This kind of behavior is unacceptable, and it's time for Ondilla to be held accountable for his actions. Chapter 5. Ex-Judge Stephen Baratta. From solicitor to DA, a troubling pattern. Hold on to your hats, folks, because this next one is a doozy. Stephen Baratta, former judge and current district attorney, has a history with CYS that dates back to the early 90s when he served as a county solicitor for the agency. And let me tell you, is riddled with cases where he seemed more interested in protecting CYS than in ensuring justice was served. We're talking about cases where there was more than enough evidence to throw out, cases where families were torn apart based on flimsy accusations and questionable evidence. And now, Baratta is in a position of even greater power, overseeing the prosecution of countless individuals. It's a terrifying thought, and it raises serious questions about whether justice can truly be served under his watch. Chapter 6. Iwalda Cook, silencing parents, protecting the system. Now let's talk about Iwalda Cook. This individual works within the CYS system, And from what we've gathered, their primary role seems to be silencing parents and protecting the agency at all costs. They're like the gatekeepers of information, the ones who decide what parents are allowed to know and what gets swept under the rug. Imagine being a parent desperately trying to get your child back, only to be stonewalled at every turn by someone like Cook. It's a heartbreaking reality for many families caught in the CYS system, and it's a clear indication that something is seriously wrong. Chapter 7. Lisa Spitale, another cog in the CYS machine. Lisa Spitale is another individual who seems to have dedicated their career to upholding the CYS system, often at the expense of the families they're supposed to be helping. Like Ewald Cook, Spitale appears to prioritize protecting the agency and its interests over ensuring the well-being of children and families. This pattern of silencing dissent and prioritizing the agency over people is deeply concerning. It suggests a systemic problem within CYS, a culture of fear and intimidation that prevents honest conversations about the agency's flaws and failures. Chapter 8. Anne Henry maintaining the status quo, no matter the cost. Anne Henry is yet another example of someone who seems more invested in maintaining the status quo within CYS than in advocating for meaningful change. They're part of the system, and they seem content to perpetuate its practices, even when those practices result in harm to families. It's like they've become desensitized to the pain and suffering caused by CYS, more concerned with following protocols and protecting the agency's image than with addressing the very real problems that plague the system. Chapter 9. Newton Jr., the enforcer keeping families in the dark. Last but certainly not least, we have Newton Jr. This individual operates within the CYS system, and their actions suggest a ruthless commitment to maintaining control and silencing any opposition. They're like the enforcers, the ones who ensure that parents stay in line and don't ask too many questions. Newton Jr.'s tactics reportedly involve intimidation, threats, and a blatant disregard for the rights of parents. They represent the darkest aspects of the CYS system, the parts that operate in the shadows and prioritize power over compassion. Guys, what we've uncovered is deeply troubling. These individuals, whether through their actions, their connections, or their silence, are contributing to a system that is failing families. But we don't have to let them get away with it. If you have any information about these key players, if you've had similar experiences with them or with CYS in general, I urge you to reach out. Your story matters. Your voice deserves to be heard. I will keep your identity anonymous, but together we can shed light on these injustices and fight for a better system for all families. In my next video, we're going to dive deeper into each of these key players, examining their records, their connections, and the allegations against them. This is far from over. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay tuned.